So hello students, we were continuing with the properties of system. So moving on, the next property and very important property is linearity. Now this property is composed of two components. First one is homogeneity and additivity, or you can also call it as superposition. Combining these two properties, we get the property of a linear system. So let's start with the property of homogeneity. Suppose there is any system with input output relationship yt as function of x of t. Now suppose, let's say, for the same system, if the input is multiplied by some constant, it may be a complex constant, in that case, if the output is also scaled by the same constant, then this system is called homogeneous system. You can also write it here, homogeneity or scaling. If the input is scaled by some constant, the output is also scaled by the same constant. You can write here, if input is scaled by any constant, then the output is scaled by the same constant. So this is the principle of homogeneity. For example, suppose there is if a resistance is there, suppose you apply an input and let's say I current is flowing, current I equals to V upon R. So suppose you scale the input by A times, then now you can see the output will also get scaled by the same factor. IT is also getting scaled by the factor of A. Same case that we discussed earlier is an RC circuit. Suppose we apply a DC signal. We want to obtain output voltage across the capacitor. Then V naught T suppose is given by Vm1 minus e to the power minus T upon tau. Then suppose you scale Vm by a factor of, let's say, Am, then you can see the output is also getting scaled by a factor of Am. So this is the principle of homogeneity, and such type of system is called a homogeneous system. One thing to note is that suppose an input x, for an input xt, the output is y of t. Now suppose you add a constant to the input, and let's say y dash is a new constant. Now if you scale the input, you will definitely not get the same output. The y dash t will not be scaled just as the input. So for the homogeneous system, the input must not be added to a constant. So this was a brief idea about homogeneous system. Let's move on to another property related to linear system. Additivity. Suppose there is system x1 of t that gives an output, corresponding output y1 of t, right? Suppose for the same system there is another output x2 of t whose output signal is y2 of t. Similarly, there are n number of input passed through the same system to obtain a corresponding output y of t. So what does the concept of additivity means? Suppose let's say for the same system you add all the inputs at once, x1t plus x2t plus x3 up to n times xn of t. So if for the sum of inputs we get an output that is also the sum of the responses due to individual inputs, then that is the concept of additivity. That is for a sum of n number of input signal, the output will be the sum of the individual responses corresponding to the inputs. This is the principle of additivity. For example, in case of any, let's say, any circuit is given, an electrical circuit is given, let's say the input let's say the input is a sum of the input is an for this system let's say we are interested in obtaining the voltage across this capacitor. So let's say this system is excited by a current source, let's say capital I of t, V1t and Vt of t. So these are the three excitations. So when we apply the concept of additivity, then what happens that suppose we apply the concept of additivity or superposition, we are then by applying the principle superposition we then for each input we find the corresponding output and do the addition of each output. For example, if for the voltage source V1, let's say the voltage, the corresponding output voltage across the capacitor is V01 of t, and in case of V2 it is V2 of t, and in case of current source it is, let's say, V0 I of t. So what will be the output voltage? It will be the sum of the responses corresponding to the individual excitations. That means if we take this system and our excitation is I of t plus V1 of t plus V2 of t, then for each input there will be a corresponding output, and the output will be a total sum of the responses corresponding to the individual inputs. I into t. This is the concept of additivity. Now let us combine the concept of both homogeneity and additivity. Suppose there is a system x1 t and will give an output y of t, y1 of t. Similarly, for the same system, for input x2 of t, we get an output y2 of t. Similarly, for n number of inputs, then applying the concept of homogeneity, if the coefficient at the input is multiplied with a constant, the same coefficient appears at the output. Similarly here, in all the cases, we scale the both input and output by the same factor. Now here we have applied the principle of homogeneity. Now next what we will do, we will apply the concept of additivity. Let's sum up all the inputs at once. Then adding all of them, we can write a1 x1 of t plus a2 x2 of t an xn of t will give corresponding output a1 y1 of t plus a2 y2 of t yn of t. So for such system is called a linear system. So how can we state a linear system? We can state a linear system as it is for a linear system, the output is the sum of the responses corresponding to the weighted inputs, or you can write here as weighted responses. So this is how we can state a linear system. Now let's see how we can test a linear system. What is the method of testing a linear system? Suppose there is a system on which we applied a weighted input to get corresponding output y1 of t, and for the same system, say we apply another input a2 x2 of t to obtain another output y2 of t, and let's add both of them, both outputs to get total output. Y of capital Y of t equals to y1 t plus y2 of t. Now in the second case, let's add both the inputs well before applying to the system to obtain a third signal x3, which is the a1 x1 of t plus a2 x2 of t. Now applying this signal to the system, to the same system that we have taken above, to obtain an input y3 of t. Now for testing linearity, if y3 of t equals to capital Y of t, here is capital Y of t, then system is linear. Otherwise non-linear. So this is how we will test linearity. Let us see some examples. Let's say there is a system whose output signal is given as yt is equal to t times of the input signal x of t. Proof. Whether this system is linear or not. So our testing procedure will be a1 x1 t input is applied to the system, will obtain output y1 t equal to a1 t times of a1 x1 of t, and similarly for the another signal, the output will be y2 t times of a2 x2 of t, and then combining these two outputs we get y equals to capital Y of t equals to y1 t plus y2 of t, which is t times of a1 x1 t plus t times of a2 x2 t. Now let's take another case. Here we will add both the inputs before applying to the system to obtain x3 input, which is a1 x1 of t plus a2 x2 of t. Apply this to the system to obtain y3, which will be t times of x3 of t. And what is x3 of 3? a1 x1 of t plus a2 x2 of t, which will be t times of a1 x1 of t plus t times of a2 x2 of t. Now you can see y3 t equals to capital Y of t, hence linear system. So this is how we test linearity. Let's take another example. Let's take another system. Yt is equal to xt square. We will do the same. We will apply the same procedure. A1 x1 t is applied to obtain y1 of t, which will be a1 square x1 square of t. Similarly, for another signal a2 x2 of t, we will obtain output y2t a2 square x2 square, and then we will sum up these two output to obtain capital Y of t, which will be a1 square x1 square t plus a2 square x2 square t. Take the second case. Add both the inputs to obtain another signal a1 x1 of t plus a2 x2 of t, and finally applying this to the system, we obtain y3 of t, which is x3 t whole square, and x3 is a1 x1 t plus a2 x2 t whole square, which will be a1 x1 of t whole square plus a2 x2 of t whole square plus 2a1 a2 x1 x2. So comparing these two equations, we can say yt3 t is not equal to capital Y of t, hence system is nonlinear. So this was a brief discussion on linear system. Let us quickly move on to another topic. Linear time invariant systems, very important, or in other words, LTI systems. Most physical systems are modeled as linear time invariant systems. Their advantages are it is approximating physical systems as linear time invariant system is easy to analyze. And it is a very simplified model. And one thing, the dynamic behavior of system, which is also called impulse response, is already known beforehand. So we will see what does this statement mean. So as the name suggests, the system is both linear as well as a time invariant system. So for this type of system, if we want to know the response for any signal, then what we will do, we will apply the concept of linearity and time invariance. What we now, in order to find the response of this system, we will assume the input signal as sum of simple signals. What do you mean by this simple signal? For example, u of t or impulse signal del of t, very basic signals that are used for analysis of system. So we will resolve xt into sum of signals. We will see how we will do that. And then we will apply the concept of linearity and time invariance to obtain the response of the signal. Now, for obtaining the response of the signal, we must also know behavior of the signal. Now, what do you mean by that? Let's see. Suppose this is our LTI system. This is the output y of t. let's say this is for any input, the output is y of t. Now the thought process that we are having is we have to apply the concept of linearity and time invariance. So the concept of linearity invokes additivity. And homogeneity. So the thought process is, first we will, just like let's say for any vector, let's say there is a vector f. So we can resolve any vector f as three components in Cartesian coordinates. Similarly, what we will do here, we will resolve this xt into a sum of signals. And find responses due to each component. For example, suppose xt equals to x1t plus x2t. Somehow we managed to resolve the system into three components. So the idea behind obtaining the response for an LTI system is we will obtain response corresponding to each input. For x2 there will be an output y2t, and for x3 the corresponding input is y3 of t, and then we will add each of them to obtain the corresponding output 1 2 3. So this was the concept of linearity. And what was the concept of time invariance here, that we will see. So let us represent xt as summation of signals, and let us for the convenience we select these, what we dealt earlier, that xt can be represented as a summation of some simple signals, which was, let's say, ut or del of t. So for the time being, let us say that xt can be considered as a sum of impulse signals. Now, what is the idea behind representing xt as a sum of impulse signal? Is that suppose for this LTI system we apply an impulse signal, and let's say h of t is the corresponding response. So since this is an impulse signal, the corresponding response is called impulse response. Now why do we choose, which is also called in the frequency domain term as transfer function? Now why do we choose del of t as the same simple signal? Because in the frequency domain the frequency domain response, let me write here, the frequency domain response of impulse signal is obtained for all frequencies. So in the frequency domain, if we convert from time domain to frequency, let's say in the S domain, if we write it in the S domain, the Laplace domain, its value is 1. So its value is obtained for all values of the frequency. So for the purpose of analyzing the system, we must know the behavior of the system on all value of frequencies. This is only possible in case of the impulse signal. That is why for the purpose of obtaining the response of an LTI system, the impulse response is predetermined. And hence once we know the impulse response behavior or impulse response characteristics of LTI system, then we can obtain the response of the same system corresponding to any input signal. Let us see how. For convenience, let's take a discrete system. Suppose there is a discrete LTI system. Let's say whose input signal is given by x of n and output is y of n for a discrete LTI system. Suppose xn, this it is represent xn signal as, say this is let's say this is some arbitrary discrete signal -2. Now by the theory of, now what is the idea here is resolve xn as weighted sum of impulse signals, because we already know the impulse response. That is why we will represent xn as a sum of impulse signal, and we will calculate the impulse responses corresponding to each signal. That is why we will try to represent xn as a sum of impulse signals. How we will do that? Let us first define for any discrete signal how we define the impulse. The discrete impulse signal is defined as del of n is 1 for n equals to 0 and 0 for n not equal to 0. So this is the definition of del of n. Its value is 1. And similarly we write a shifted, right? Suppose the impulse is shifted by distance k, then it will be 1 for n equals to k and 0 for n not equal to k. Suppose we shift with at some distance k. So its value will be 1. at n is equal to k. So this is the concept of, this is unit impulse signal, impulse at origin, and it is shifted impulse. One thing to note, that its value is always 1. Suppose we add any, multiply or suppose we scale the impulse signal by any coefficient a, then this is called the weight of the impulse, weight or height of the impulse, weight of impulse. Now let us see how we will represent this signal as the sum of these impulses. This is our original Xn signal. Let's answer is -2, -1, 0, 1 and 2. And let's say this height is x of 0, because at t is equal to 0, and its height is x of 1 at t is equal to 1. Similarly, x2, x minus 1, x minus 2. So we can write xn as x minus 2 plus x minus 1 plus x zero plus x1 plus x2, right? Now, by applying the concept of impulses, now we know del n minus k, the concept of shifted impulse, its value is 1 for n is equal to k and 0 for n not equal to k, right? Now, instead of representing xn like this, let's say we write xn as x2 into a sum of shifted impulses del n plus 2 for n is equal to -2 plus x minus 1 del n plus 1 plus x 0 del n minus 0. You can simply write del n plus x1 del n minus 1 plus x2 del of n minus 2. The story remains the same. For n is equal to -2, its value will be 1 only. So either you write this or this. These both equations are the same. Only difference is now we can represent xn as the sum of weighted impulses. You can write in the summation form xk into del n minus k, and k varies from -2 to 2, -2 2. Now you can see we have represented the input signal as sum of weighted shifted impulse signals. Now this coefficient is the weight of the impulse. This is the weight of impulse, and that's why, and this, since this impulse signal is shifted, that is why this xn is the sum of weighted shifted impulse signals. So this is how we have resolved an input signal as a sum of simple signals, which we have taken as impulse signal. And why we have taken impulse signal? Because for the purpose of finding the output, we must the impulse response is known. Once we know the impulse response, we can calculate the impulse response due to each impulse at n is equal to -2, the impulse at n is equal to -1, at n is equal to 0, and then adding all the the responses due to impulse, and then we can calculate the output of the signal. This is the thought process. Look at here, what we have done, we have resolved, see, we have resolved the same input signal as individual signals. Adding all these signal will give this whole complete signal, and we have resolved xn into sum of shifted impulses. These impulses are shifted as the sum of shifted impulses. Can I write here sum of shifted impulses? Very important term. Now see, because we already know the impulse response, see, let's start like this. This is the system. We already know beforehand what is the impulse response of the system, that is the transfer function of the system. We have already found the impulse response of the system. Now applying the concept of homogeneity, we will multiply a coefficient to this xn. So the same coefficient is multiplied at the output of this response. Fine. Now by applying the concept of time invariance, now we have already dealt the concept of time invariance. What does the concept of time invariance means? That if the system is time invariant, then for any delay in input, the same delay is observed in the output. So suppose for this impulse, if we shift this impulse by, let's say, 1 unit, the same shift is observed in the output. So we already know the response. Now for the shifted response, we already know the impulse response will also be shifted by 1 unit. This is what we have done. So once we know the impulse response, we already know its shifted behavior. Then for n is equal to 1, this will be the corresponding the corresponding shift. The output will be also shifted by 1 unit. For n is equal to 2, the output has also shifted by 2 units. Similarly, for left side shifting, the output shift by 1 unit, and similarly for n is equal to -2, the output shifts by 2 units backward. And applying the concept of homogeneity, same coefficients appear here. For x minus 1, because since this is an LTI system, so by the concept of linearity, any coefficient multiplied with the input, the same coefficient will appear at the output. Now for this input signal, which is the sum of shifted impulses, we have obtained the corresponding output. And by the concept of additivity, we will add all the individual responses to calculate the total output. So if we write it, so this is our system. If we want to find the output corresponding to our input xn. What is our xn? Xn is the sum of the shifted signals. Then white n will be just adding all of them. You will get summation xk h n minus k. See, n minus 1, n minus 2, n plus 1, n plus 2, n minus 1. So in general we can write k is equal to -2 to +2. Similarly, k is equal to -2 to +2. So this sum is called the convolution sum. And the property of representing the signal as a weighted sum of impulse is also called shifting property. Shift. What is shifting property? Representing signal as sum of shifted impulses. And the corresponding output is called the convolution sum. Now we can do a generalization. So for xn, for an input xn, for k is equal to -infinity to infinity, as we are taking a general case, will be xk del n minus k. The corresponding output will be given as the convolution sum. Xk h n minus k. K is equal to -infinity to infinity. is called convolution sum. And Hn is called impulse response. And for obtaining the impulse response, for obtaining this output, this quantity is pre-known, predefined, or you can say it is pre-calculated. Once this is known, once the impulse response is known, then we will represent the input as a sum of impulse responses, and for each impulse, shifted impulse, we will calculate the corresponding impulse response and adding all the impulse responses to obtain the final convolution sum. So this is in a sum format, that is why it is called convolution sum. Hn is predefined. It is also called impulse response. Or you can also call it as a dynamic behavior. So this was the case for a discrete system. Now we can do the same thing for a continuous time signal. Suppose there is an input xt which is continuous nature. This is we have obtained just for the discrete time signal. Now we can do the same thing for continuous time signal. Suppose there is any general signal, any arbitrary signal x of t. Now we will do the same thing. We must know the impulse response beforehand. So what we will do, first we will take an staircase approximation of the signal. We will divide the signal into small bits of corresponding height. Suppose for this, at this point the height of the signal is x0. This point is x0. Now what we are doing, we already know the nature of an impulse signal for a continuous time signal. It is obtained for a very small value of delta. Let us define for the time being a delta t impulse signal as 1 upon delta, where let's say this is the impulse signal, impulse approximation, just like what we did in the case of discrete signal. Now here the weight of the impulse is taken as x0, and this will be the del of t into delta will be the complete approximation of the impulse signal. Similarly, so our motive is resolve this continuous time signal into the sum of weighted shifted impulses, and this is called the xk delta. Similarly, x0, x minus 2, this is the weight of the impulse. So what we are doing, we are resolving x2 into sum of weighted impulses and then adding those impulses to obtain xt. So suppose for this point the height of the impulse is x0, and let's consider another point. Here this is a shifted impulse, and the shift is by the distance 2 delta, and the height of impulse is x minus 2 delta. We have actually divided this all signal into small blocks of width delta. Now adding these impulses such that we did in the discrete time case, we represented input signal into the sum of impulses. Here we are doing the same thing, representing this input signal as the sum of impulses. Since this is a continuous time signal, we can get an infinite approximation. Suppose for a point at a distance k from the origin, so it will be shifted by, the impulse will be shifted by k delta. So finally we can add all these impulses and write xt as a sum of weighted impulses. And also shifted, these impulses are shifted. And since this is the continuous time signal, we will take approximations. What kind of, we have to convert, we have to replace this summation with an integral by taking limit delta tends to 0. If we take limit of delta tends to 0, then let's say k delta will change to a continuous form tau, that is represented as tau, and similarly let's say delta as d tau, and replace summation with integration to obtain the convolution sum, or you can say convolution integral in case of continuous time signal. So for a continuous time signal x of t, whose for the system whose impulse response is given h of t, is given as h of t, which is the impulse response, then the output response is given as integration of minus infinity to infinity x tau h t minus tau into d tau. Tau is some parameter, and t is the corresponding to the time instant. T is the time instant, and tau is some parameter. Let us see some example how we can obtain the output. Now here, suppose we obtain a output yt which is some function of time, then this will be this t will be applicable from minus infinity to infinity. That means it takes the convolution sum takes into consideration all values of t. Let's take an example. It is given as minus infinity to infinity x tau h t minus tau t tau. Now our sole purpose is finding the area under this curve x tau into h t minus tau, and then we have to integrate it. That means finding the area under this curve. This is our intention. Let's see an example. Let's say xt equals to e to the power minus t ut, and let's say ht is equal to u of t. Okay, the convolution sum is also written as xt asterisk h of t. Convolution sum. Let's see an example. Let's see the example. So this ht is given as, this is u of t step signal, this is h of t, and negative exponential, and this signal is given as negative exponential signal. But what we desire is x tau and h t minus tau. And what we do, just replace t with x tau, which is e to the power minus tau u tau. This is tau, and h with h t minus tau. We want a shifted version of h. So now this is t. Let's convert it first to h tau, sorry, t minus tau, then first let us represent it as h tau. Now it is in tau form, but our purpose is to find h t minus tau. Then first we will find h minus tau and then h t minus tau. Now we know h tau. We will do the time reversal. So h minus tau will be time reversal. It will be This is h minus tau. This is x tau and h minus tau given as tau. Now what we require is h according to the convolution equation. We require h t minus tau, the shifted version of tau. So this is h minus of tau. Now we find t minus tau, which is also equal to h minus tau minus t. Now remember, t is the time domain. Now since we have to shift the tau, this signal, with respect to time, so, and what we have to do, we have to find the area under the product x tau h t minus tau d tau. This product, that means area under this product. Let's say we will draw a fresh one. H minus tau, and this is x of tau. Now we have to, let's say we shift it by a, we need a something, we need h t minus tau. We need to shift tau by t. Then let's say we shift it, then we have two possibilities. Suppose for time t greater than 0, if we write like this, minus tau minus t. If for t will be greater than 0, the shift will be rightward, right shift. And if t will be less than 0, the shift will be leftward, left shift. For example, if t is equal to +1, then h will be minus tau minus 1. Then tau minus 1 form, then the shift will be rightward. Suppose if t is equal to -1, then it will be h minus tau plus 1, then the shift will be leftward. So we have to take all the cases of t, for t greater than 0, for t less than 0. Suppose for t less than 0, there will be shift leftward. H minus, for t less than 0, it will be h tau minus t. Let's say we do some shifting by how much? By, we shift by t. This. Now our purpose is to find the product x tau into h t minus tau. Now we have obtained h t minus tau and x tau. If we multiply both of them, we see that for x tau does not exist the left hand side, its value is 0 here. So if we multiply these, x tau exists for right hand side, but in this case the h t minus tau does not exist for the right side, it exists for the left hand side. But here both situations are opposite, so if we take their product, its value will be 0. If we see, suppose let's say we write it as like this is x tau, and suppose this is our signal h t minus tau. If we take the product, there is no shaded region here, then its value is 0. That is why we can see that for t less than 0, so for t less than 0, there will be no yt is equal to 0. Why yt will be 0? Because by the concept of convolution sum, for t less than 0, this product is 0. This product is getting 0. That is why yt is equal to 0 for t less than 0. But let's take case 2 for t greater than 0. Suppose since for h t minus tau case, for t greater than 0, the shift will be rightward. So let's try to shift it a bit rightward by some amount t. This is h t minus tau. And this is xt, and what will be x tau? X tau will be this is x tau. So here for t greater than 0, you can see this part is the common part between both of them. Here we can find the product. This is the shaded region, the common portion between two of them. So here we can take the integration from 0 to t. So for t greater than 0, yt is equal to minus infinity to infinity, 0 to t, taking product. So x tau, its value is e to the power minus tau into u tau multiplied by u t minus tau, because this is a step function, into d tau. Its value will be 1, its value will be 1, so it will be minus infinity. Now the integration is from 0 to t, so we will take the limit from 0 to t, e to the power minus tau, its value will be 1 1 d tau, so its value will be 1 minus e to the power minus tau. Because it is starting from t greater than 0, then we will multiply u times of t. So this is how we find the convolution sum. So finally we can write, finally what we obtained, yt is, its value is 0 for t less than 0, and its value is 1 minus e to the power minus t ut for t greater than 0. So if you want to plot this function, its value is 0, its value is 0 for t less than 0, and it is this is yt. We will continue our discussion in the next lecture.